Okay, who's got either a very embarrassing question or a deep, dark fear or anything they'd like to ask the panel about money? Right at the back, let's start there.
With suppliers, one of the biggest concerns we have is we know we can get the orders, we can get the sales. It's buying the components, basically buying the supplies we need on the credit terms. That's probably our biggest headache of them all. As I say, we've just asked for quite a substantial amount of money from our suppliers and we don't know whether we'll get it. So, any top tips on how to get more money?
Okay, can we just hear that question one more time? It's you're a long way away.
Basically what the question's about, it's getting better credit terms from suppliers or getting credit terms from suppliers. That's probably our biggest concern is how do we keep our cash flow going? We don't have massive amounts of money in there. We can sell the product, but we can't always get the consumables we need. So that's probably it. What's the best way of dealing with that?
So I think the question there is about how you manage cash flow and get credit terms from your suppliers. Anybody like to handle that? They have no idea, basically. Who's going to, James?
I'll have a go. I mean, it very much depends on circumstances and who the suppliers are and how long you've known them. But as a new start business, it's always very difficult, obviously, to get that credit rating. And in this climate today, it's probably more difficult than ever. We've been approached by a new client of ours. I did some homework. He hasn't filed any accounts yet. The company's that new. And they asked us to do about £150,000 worth of contracting work for them. And I said to him, look, no offence, but I just cannot take that kind of risk on a 60-day open credit. My bank would only actually, or did a rating and only came up with £20,000 as the facility they would recommend for the company. So we've had to say to them, look, the only way to do this is if you do actually pay something on a pro forma basis. So we'll take the order, we'll do the work, but before you can pick up your goods from our factory, you'll have to pay me 50% of the cost of that contract. I'll give you the other 50% on 60 days credit. So it may be you've got to go into a deal negotiating, whether you're buying or selling with the supplier and say, look, we can't afford to pay you on your terms, but, we will pay you this much, on delivery, and then if we can have some terms for the rest of it. But you really need to know who the supplier as well. You need to get into them and find out, who they are, who owns the businesses, are they interested in your business? Because if they see a long-term potential in your business, they'll often be very supportive. I buy a lot of octoboxes from a company that Tim actually knows very well, based in the region. But it's a husband and wife team, and I've ended up sometimes just being completely unable to pay them for this packaging for months and months and months. But I just went up to see them in Bishop Auckland and said, look, guys, this is how it is, and if you believe in my business, you'll accept that I can only pay you 10% of what I owe you now, rather than them, and they never would, they're a nice couple, but, them ringing their bank and saying, look, I want to put in an administrator because I don't think Expo is going to pay their bill. And it's a relationship thing. So it depends who your suppliers are, how many you've got, how well you know them. But it's worth a try. Just talk to them.
If you think of it, the way I've always tried to work is with our suppliers, we think of it not so much as a business relationship, but a partnership. One thing that came, an example, a short story is last year when we went contracting in Finnish Lapland, where we've always paid our suppliers very promptly and we've always paid them a fair price. Fair trade, I think, applies anywhere in the world. It doesn't have to be coffee beans in America or South America. And we realized there was a recession coming, and also that sterling was doing really, really badly against the euro, and that was going to whack the cost of our holidays up. And we went back to our suppliers, who we, as I say, we have this partnership with, and we've treated them well in the past, and we said, look guys, you've got to help us out. We've never really asked you, we've never hammered you on price. And to a man, they all came back. We used about 20 different hotels and dog sled suppliers, it's amazing the people you meet, reindeer herders. It's true. And to a man, they came back with either the same price as the previous year, or they reduced their prices for us. Now, as a result, I know that our competitors were 20 or 30% down this winter that we're just coming out of now. We are 37% up. because we managed to keep our prices pretty much. We reduced our margins slightly, they brought their prices down. And if you can develop relationships with your suppliers, and as a startup, it takes time, and it takes investment in meeting the people, and I mean, almost getting to know them socially. But if you can invest that time and you can build up relationships, you will find that you get better terms, no doubt about it.
So I think the lesson there is that this networking we were doing right at the beginning of the day is as important with suppliers as it is for potential customers. It's having that ongoing conversation with them. Right, let's have any really deep, dark fear. This gentleman here, there's a gentleman right in the middle of the room. Is that Michael again? Brian?
Finding trust in people, and if you're giving the wrong advice or taking the wrong advice, what do you do about it?
Okay, fair enough. So it's how do you cope with the balance of getting other people's advice, whether you can trust it? How do you manage that as somebody who's responsible for your own business?
I think a massive thing that I would say is to really trust your instincts. For me, the best relationships that I have are with the chocolatiers that I work with who I instantly got a good feeling about, and I think that goes for a lot of things in life, but certainly in business. The people who I enjoy working with the most and the people whose opinions I trust are the people who I instantly clicked with and who weren't afraid to sort of kind of stand up to me in a way. I think to be very honest and open, and certainly as a new, my business has only been running 6 months. When I come to things like this and I meet other people that run their own businesses, a lot of the time, everybody wants to give you advice. Everybody wants to sort of say, do this, do that, and you're having 301 kind of suggestions for the way to take your business and what to do. And I think really following your gut instincts is the most important thing, and not being frightened of making mistakes and not beating yourself up about taking advice from other people and sort of following it and really finding out that wasn't the best advice at all, really. I think it's impossible to start a business and not make about 1 million mistakes, because that's obviously the way that you learn.
I mean, I would reiterate that. When I started my first business, I didn't have a clue, absolutely no idea. And just the smallest decisions, I would take advice from people and basically do what they said, because I just didn't have the confidence in myself. And gradually you learn, as I said before, and we've said, learn from your mistakes. And by the time we got round to the second business, I actually started to trust my gut instincts, and I started to rationalize my decisions, and I started to live by my own decisions. You've got to have confidence in your own ability. If you want to start or to successfully run a business, you've got to believe in yourself and your own decisions.
And you'll always find that voice is there. Your own inner instinct is always there. It'll always tell you the right thing to do, as long as you can clear away the rest of the clutter in your mind so you can hear it clearly. That seems to be what happens. I've got one eye on my watch here. I think it's time to draw this session to a close. So I want to thank all our panellists for their really excellent input. Thank you very much indeed.
I think it grows into you. I never saw myself as an entrepreneur. Then a couple of people asked me to join the Entrepreneurs Forum and said I'd be quite suited for it. And I think it's something you don't realise you are born with it. You do, and you can develop it as well. Definitely, you just see opportunities. If something's not very good or some service is rubbish, or you ask for something and some guy says, "Oh, we can't do that for another month or 2 months," and you think, well, there must be an opportunity there. Simple as that. There must be a niche in the market to do what you can't provide me with. So I do see opportunities quite easily, and whether that's built in or natural, I don't know.
Don't be afraid of feeling afraid, which sounds a bit weird, but it's the biggest kind of emotion that I think a lot of people go through when they're setting up a business. It's the what ifs and the kind of buts that are always, at the back of your mind when you decide to start a business, and it's the sort of fear of failing and fear of sort of saying, I've tried it and it hasn't necessarily worked out. And I think it's just kind of, you only get one chance, you only get one life, and so you really do need to just give it a go. And if the worst that happens is that you try and have a business, you try and run it and it doesn't necessarily work out, that's not terrible, that's nothing to be ashamed of. It's better to have tried and not necessarily succeeded than to never have even given it a go. So I'd just say, just do it.
Entrepreneurialism is the future of the Northeast. You know, it's small and medium-sized enterprises provide, I don't know what the percentage is of employment in this country, but it's astronomical. It's not huge corporations that provide the bulk of employment. And this area has lagged behind in entrepreneurialism and business startups. And businesses will be the future of this region. Of that I have absolutely no doubt, whether it's a small retail shop or whether it's a multi-million business like Sage up at the Great Park. You know, and at the forum, we're all in it together, whether it's somebody who's just set up a little website business or somebody like Paul Walker at Sage who's done it all basically. We're all in here. We're not here to make money out of each other. We're here to help each other. And that's what it's all about. It's about the future of this region. Fantastic. I love getting involved. I love talking to people. It's the only networking I do. Most of my business comes from down south. We have a little farmhouse in Stannington where converted offices, and most of my business comes from down south. I hate schmoozing, I hate networking, but I enjoy coming to these days. Because as I say, I pick up ideas, I can pass on ideas or thoughts, and give encouragement and hopefully a little bit of inspiration. The forum's fantastic, brilliant concept.
Okay, guys, so there are a few things I've got to do before we to finish formally. 3 things we've got to do. First of all, I want to draw your attention to this scheme here, If We Can, You Can, which is basically a competition to encourage people with good ideas for businesses to start them and to get all sorts of support to help them. That's opening next week. That's the address there, ifwecanyoucan.co.uk. It's a brilliantly run scheme. I do urge you. I think it's run through the Entrepreneurs Forum. I strongly suggest you go and have a look at that and enter it as well. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I just want to remind you of the address that Ian gave you, which was enterprisecafe.tv/chance to change, which is in your workbooks under session 2. And again, that's got a really good interactive thing that'll help you think through your particular ideas. And there's also one other thing in your workbooks, which is this form, chance to change, what am I going to do next? This is not just a normal feedback form, it's a very clever one in that it's got a carbon copy on the back here. And basically, it asks you what issues you need to address, but what actions are you going to take, and what help do you need, really. And if you hand in the back part of it, the yellow part, on your way out, this will be followed up by a range of all the people who are behind this conference to see how they can help you. So if you express the needs you have as far as mentoring or cash or support or partners, this will be followed up. So this is like a paper piece of networking. So I really encourage you to do that before you leave the room. And all that remains for me to say, really, is that, first of all, thank you all very, very much for coming. Thank you for being so attentive throughout the session. 3 things that really struck me was the first session was about networking and support. I don't come from the Northeast, but I can tell you, having worked all over the country and well, all over the world, really, is that the Northeast is really blessed in having the range of support that you have here. I don't know how you've got it, maybe because you're geographically distinct, but I can't think of another area that has so much quality support. So don't take it for granted. It's a real blessing. Do take advantage of it. Some fantastic organisations that are just there to help you. That's the first thing. So there's all the networking and support you need. Secondly is about confidence and just doing things. Every one of our panellists throughout the day has never shown any regrets about what they did. It really is a life changer. No one's pretended it's easy. In fact, it's extremely difficult. But if you get through the difficulties, and sometimes difficulties are half the fun, then being an entrepreneur, being in charge of your own destiny, really is a life-changing experience. And having done it myself, I strongly recommend it. So do have the confidence. Do make that big leap of faith. And that's the sort of final thing I wanted to say, is that all of you have a vision. That's why you're here. All of you have an instinct for change. And as Sir Peter Vardy, who's a sort of local business hero, says, one of the things he says is that vision without action is hallucination. So don't just have that vision and dream. Do make it happen. That requires a bit of confidence. It requires a lot of action. And it requires making that leap of faith. And the last thing I want to leave you with is something that my father always said, is about how scary leaps of faith, leaps into the dark are. But he said, you've got to make those leaps in life because you show me a man who keeps his feet always firmly on the ground, and I'll show you a man who has trouble getting his trousers on. So it really is, that wasn't terribly helpful, I know, but it really is worth making that leap of faith. And I hope today we've given you some inspiration, some information, some support to help you make that big leap of faith. I wish you all the very best of luck. I thank you all for coming. I thank our tremendous range of sponsors for putting this, this wonderful conference on for us. And I thank all our panelists for giving up their time and experience to be with us today. So thank you all very much, and I wish you the very best of luck. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.